Yes, it's Bill Jones from Freedom's Nest, brought to you by recapturefederalism.com and also operationofficialmisconduct.com. Haven't heard that in a while, have you? We'll get into the introduction and then I'll talk a little bit about that and what I'm doing regarding the two sites that I have. Today's episode is episode number 7 of the series American Communist Theocracy, Treason, Sedition, and Subversion. This is episode number 7, and it is titled The Massive Pro-Communist Internet Censorship. I had already done, and if you've heard it, one on internet neutrality. This gets involved in it, but what's happening right now and what has been happening. We've had net neutrality is going to be an extension of pro-communist censorship. Okay, no, I don't care what anybody tells you, and all these other talking heads say certain things. I'm going to tell you it's an expansion of pro-communist censorship, and I'm going to be talking about pro-communist censorship today. It's been going on for some time, for decades. What I'm going to be talking today about is a specific incident that has occurred with my website over the last couple of years, about a previous presentation I did in 2013 in July. That'll be later on. But now getting to my two websites, I've had active recapturefederalism.com for several years, and I had the other website, Operation Official Misconduct. That came along second, and rather than to do two sites, because they're not easy to run. They're not easy to run because if you don't have a big team of big money behind you, you got to do everything yourself, which is what I've been doing. We're going to try and get some funding to expand my operation, but that's another story. That's a personal thing, I guess. Operation Official Misconduct was intended, is intended, and will operate on solutions. It's essentially a think tank with a call for action to solve some of the problems we have, to combat communism in the United States, and all that involves. And we'll get into that specifically later on. But it utilizes the 4-step Dr. Martin Luther King action program. What he used was civil disobedience. Mine will be less civil disobedience and be more direct action. They did legal action and what have you. And which brings up the subject. Civil rights movement is a pro-communist movement. You've heard me before, and I'll say it again. God created Homo sapiens. Communists created blacks in 1965, and at the same time they created civil rights movement. And what the civil rights, it's not a American human rights movement or individual American human rights. Civil rights movement's all about protected groups, and many of these groups have just been made up, communist gays and blacks and same-sex marriage. You want to go on down the line. It's all these chaos programs that they have, a global warming movement, all these movements that they've had, and I'll be getting into that later. But Operation Official Misconduct will utilize tactics and strategies in combating communism in America. The recapture federalism, what I've done for the last several years on this, is producing presentations like the one today and many documentaries And I never realized until within the last week how many I really had. I never counted them. I was just trying to produce and put them out there. It's all about content. Get them out, get them out. Realized that you need more than content too. You need to do marketing, things of that sort. So we've expanded that. And again, it's difficult if you are one person with doing all these things. It's not that easy. But we'll continue because I'm dedicated to doing that. We will continue on. But I found out I have 94 videos on YouTube. 94 presentations over the last 2 years. 94. That's a lot. I never realized I was so busy. I've been a busy beaver. But we're come up. This will be number 95, and then we'll be able to distribute the presentations that we're going to move over. We'll have both of them, so we have a syndication of my presentations, and get the word out. And we'll do additional ones, obviously, keep going forward. Some of them will be geared more towards the Operation Official Misconduct side. We'll get all involved in that, and that gets into detail, which I don't want to talk about today. That's into the future. Now, we'll continue on, and the next thing, you know what I do next? That's right. Gotta do the oath. I, William R. Jones, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, so help me God. General quarters, all hands man your battle stations, up and forward to starboard, down and aft to port, set material condition zebra throughout the ship. This is not a drill. This is not a drill. Communist insurrection. General quarters. Yeah, communist insurrection. By the way, this picture of me, I don't think I've ever told anybody. I've had this on several of my, I do it when I do my oath. That's me. A young me, let me tell you. That picture is from April 12th, 1969. It is a picture of a picture, because the original picture, which I still have, it's starting to deteriorate. That's why I took a picture of it. Was a Polaroid, believe it or not. One of my squadron mates bought a Polaroid one day. Hey, let me try this out. We'll take a picture of you. And yeah, okay. And that's me. That's 1 month before Hamburger Hill, by the way. Those bombs were probably used the next day. I think that was the end of the day. We were done with ops that day. And those bombs, either that day or the next day, were dropped on the Ho Chi Minh Trail. I'm leaning against 500-pounders. I took the oath, and you know what I always do. Say. Took that oath when I joined the Navy in 1965. The enemy then was communism. The enemy now is communism. That's when I was actually, physically fighting the communists. Ho Chi Minh and his boys, the Viet Minh political party. Because there's always political parties involved, you know. Always political parties. And let me continue about what we're going to do today. We are going to do today, I'm going to do my readings that I do on every presentation, documentary, from the Communist Manifesto. Set the guidelines, set the core, what they are. Very important, these two. Everything that's in the Communist Manifesto, it's like our Constitution and everything is. All the stuff's important. Some's a little more important than other stuff. But these are a couple of cores. Let's talk about them. Page 25, they talk about abolishing countries and nationalities. And on page 26, they talk, there are besides eternal truths such as freedom, justice, etc., that are common to all states of society, But communism abolishes eternal truths, and it abolishes all religion and all morality, instead of constituting them on a new basis. It therefore acts in contradiction to all past historical experience. Past historical experience, yeah, past historical experience. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to show you past historical experience by totalitarian governments, and as soon as I get the slide up. Yeah, past historical experience of communism. I'll show you some slides. Totalitarian governments. I've told people in the past, and I tell them now and in the future. Communism is a generic term to me, and it really means totalitarian governments. It's Machiavelli on steroids. It's that's what communism is. It's super Machiavellian. This picture right here, this image right here. Cambodia killing fields. You notice how they always say, look, somebody got guns and somebody don't. Isn't that surprising? Huh, yeah. Vietnam. I believe that's from 1968 or 69. That's right. Look at that guy's hand behind his back. Guy got a gun. He don't have a gun, but the guy there got a gun. Yeah, they got a gun. They're going to shoot the guy right in the head. Unarmed man. He can't even get his hands up in the air, Unarmed. That's what happens when you give up your guns. Oh, there he is. The man. My first episode in this series, Communist Obama. Like father, like son. So, boy, I hope we're not going towards killing fields here in America now. Yeah. All the bullets. If you don't have ammo for a firearm, you don't have a firearm. That's right. It's nothing. You might as well have a club then. In fact, you'd be better off with a machete or a sword. You can do a lot with a machete and sword. They isolate. You see what they do with a machete and knives, what have you. Yeah, there's killing fields there too, totalitarian government. I bet they're disarming people before they cut their heads off. Yeah. Socialist murderers. That's the past historical experience. Hitler's there too. It's socialism. Red flag is socialism. That's all Marxism. Okay, different names. Princes of Darkness, by any name, is still Prince of Darkness. That was my last. Oh, there you go, Taliban. Control freaks, Unarmed woman. Gotta morally cover her up and then blow her head off. You notice she don't have a gun either. Oh, there. You don't have a gun, I guess you can try and do what you can with swords. I'm going to show you if you don't have guns what you end up having to do. Yeah, see, they collect them guns, the Chinese. Chinese slavery. Once you get the guns, and then you're in full-time slavery. Oh, yeah. Oh, there you go, another one. Look at that. Hands bound behind his back. It's the same as beheading. You notice that? Same as beheading. Does make you can have, if you control the weapons and you can't have any weapons yourself, it doesn't make any difference what the other guy's got, because you're at a disadvantage. Yeah, gas chamber. You can see the fingernail marks on this in the gas chamber. They didn't have guns either. They took their guns away too. So there they were left defenseless, the Jews, and others too. A heavy percentage of the killing was on Jews. There were other people too. That's what Machiavelli, by the way, Hitler was a student of Machiavelli, as was Stalin. And that's what you do. You have a common enemy. And under communism, it's bourgeois, the ruling class, what they call the ruling class. Of course, they'd lie a lot. And Hitler, it was the Jews and others. If you were an enemy to the Nazi party, again, the party, there's always a party involved, like we have a party here, one Democratic Party with two wings, the Republicans and Democrats. And there's parties all over. That's what happens. One man, Hitler couldn't do all that himself. He has help. He has his people helping him. That's what Machiavelli had. The princes, they were the leaders. And then you have the followers. They're in the parties. You know, gun control worked at all these places. There's Fidel. Yeah, Mr. Fidel Castro. And then we got our leader. Oh, that's all old-time stuff. That's when I was a kid, by the way. It was before I was in Vietnam, 1959. That's when you had, they're still there. And that's the Communist Party. Ho Chi Minh, by the way, the Viet Minh Party was 1930, was founded. You know, we moved out of Vietnam, left it to the communists there. There's now 3 million members of the Communist Party in Vietnam. Have a nice day. Yeah, I'm missing one slide, one image. East Germany, 1953. I was going to say 63, but it's 53. They had a revolution there. The communist slaves were going to go up against the communist oppressor there, the Soviets, in East Germany. Tanks come along. The image shows two men. Of course, all the guns were gone. So they were throwing rocks at tanks. Throwing rocks at tanks. You got to do what you got to do in life. But that's what happens when the oppressor takes the guns away. And we have oppressors in this country too. But that's a historical experience of oppressors. That's what they do. Because sooner or later, people in this country are going to get tired of those two parties. What do you think the two parties are going to do? And that's going to be a subject today. Now, I read the one from page 26, told you about 25. Let me go to page 34 of the Communist Manifesto. The communists disdain to conceal their views and aims. They openly declare that their ends can be attained only by the forcible overthrow of all existing social conditions, that the ruling classes tremble at the communistic revolution. The proletarians have nothing to lose but their change. They have a world to win. Working men of all countries unite. World communism, that's what it's all about. Now, I didn't read the first little paragraph, the first sentence I normally read, because I want to concentrate on that. Finally, they labor everywhere for the union and agreement of the democratic parties of all countries. Democratic parties of all countries. That includes the United States, by the way. Forcible overthrow. Tremble. They're terrorists. They are terrorists. They say they're terrorists. Now, normally I read that sentence first about the Democratic parties, and finally they labor, and the spelling on that, since Communist Manifesto comes from a couple of Germans, Engels and Marx, atheists, by the way. When you see labor, they have the U in there, like in England and Europe, the rest of Europe, the English. Labor is with the U in there. And I want you to remember that, because we're going to talk about way out into the future in this documentary. We're going to talk about that. And that spelling. Because that's not an American spelling. That's not American English. That's European English. Okay. From UK. And the translation is over to the UK type English, British writing. Now, what we're going to do next, there will be 3 separate clips from a previous presentation of mine published, or broadcast, however I'll put it, usually we say published, July 29th, 2013. It's almost 2 years old. Come up on 2 years old. It was about psychological warfare, and let me get the exact title, if I can find it here. Yeah, wow. You know, I had to stop there a second to find this. This is July 29th, 2013, when I published this. That was 78 videos ago. 78 videos ago, and the title of that video was Control of the Population with Internment and Resettlement. It is still on YouTube. And as I said, I'm redoing some of my stuff. And what I did is I don't trust YouTube. And I protected all of my 94, I'll do it on all of them from now on too, that I'm going to be also distributing through Vimeo. And I put into my vault the originals on all my videos that I have, and have them indexed and what have you to do that. In case I get thrown off of my channel, off of YouTube. It has happened in the past to other people. I think Alex Jones had his, and if you don't prepare for that, it took me a few days here in the last week to get all mine in order. So it's not an easy project, and you want to protect yourself and make it easy in case they attack you by removing you from YouTube. So I've done that, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have, there's 3 separate clips from that YouTube video, and the first part of it will be there was a field manual that came out in 2010, the United States Army, called Resettlement, or Internment and Resettlement. That's what it is, correct? Internment and Resettlement. And it was how to, for the U.S. Army military police, how to handle detainees and things of that sort. And there were people who mentioned about this and did videos on it and things of that sort. And what I did too. And, well, you can't get it on the internet anymore. The United States government, well, I shouldn't say that, the parties, the United States government is us, the people, but the political parties, the occupiers and the oppressors, they took that off. They now have it under something else, and also on the military side, and I'll get into that later, there's a joint chiefs have a paper on there, JP3-63. That'll be the third clip. So there's the first clip, which is the introduction page. I'll let you listen to that. I think that's 6 minutes. Then there's 8 minutes in another clip, which is the human population control movement. That's 8 minutes, and I'm talking about that, and that's from Wikipedia. I want you to listen to that closely, because I'm going to go back over that big time, because things have been changed on there. There's been censorship, pro-communist censorship on Wikipedia in that particular area, and there's a reason for that. I'll get into that later in detail. Then there's the 2 minutes that talks about the joint publication from the Joint Chiefs of Staff about detainees. So there'll be those 3. I'll play those, and then I'll come back and talk about those. And new stuff, how they've changed it, and how they've, the propaganda and that they've utilized with that. So watch the videos, and we'll be right back then. When we go to the introduction page of this manual, we find out that it's talking about operations to facilitate the ability to conduct rapid and decisive combat operations, deter, mitigate, and defeat threats to population that may result in conflict, blah, blah, blah. And then, okay, and your first thought is, well, it's the United States Army, and they're talking about internment and resettlement camps. And what it used to be was very clear cut. They were talking about stuff overseas. And they may even be talking about Guantanamo Bay, Guantanamo detention facility down there with terrorists. And you may think, well, that's what they're talking about. But here they go to somewhere where it's very, very interesting. About the third paragraph down on this page, typically overpopulated third world societies from lack of legitimate and effective enforcement mechanisms, which are generally accepted as one of the cornerstones of a stable society. Stability within a population may eliminate the need for direct military intervention. The goal of military police conducting detainee operations is to provide stability within the population, its institutions, and its infrastructure. In this rapidly changing and dynamic strategic environment, U.S. forces will compete with local populations for same space, routes, and resources. The modular force ability to positively influence and shape the opinions, attitudes, and behaviors of select populations is critical in tactical, operational, and strategic success. Okay, we're talking about population control, or control of the population, however you want to put it, move the words around. Now, if you're just talking about overseas in the combat zone, I understand that. What I find alarming, and other people have also, there's been other YouTube videos about this particular document. I see some different things in here, and I find them very alarming. And to me, they could be incorporated with one executive order. Now, the next paragraph says an adaptive enemy will manipulate populations that are hostile to U.S. intent by instigating mass civil disobedience, directing criminal activity, making their operations in urban and other complex terrain, maintaining an indistinguishable presence through cultural anonymity, and actively seeking the traditional sanctuary of protected areas as defined by the rules of land warfare. And this is where we get into some question. An adaptive enemy will manipulate populations that are hostile to U.S. intent. What U.S. intent? The intent of the military? Following orders, let's say, from civilian leadership? Is it the intent of the leadership? Is that the U.S. intent? Or is it the intent of the true government of the United States, the people? Is it their intent, their consent for this type of operation? And is it really just for overseas? Or is it we talking about some population control here? As we go down in near the bottom, and you have a couple of the bullet points, they're operations which overreaching counterinsurgency or irregular warfare efforts of current operations. Development of terms of reference for detainee typology and standardization of procedures for detainee assessment. This word typology, I should say, is somewhat questioned. There's several meanings on them. Some are religious. We see some problems, some discrimination against evangelical Christians in the military presently. outright persecution, Christian persecution, presently. And if you look later on, I'm going to probably be going through this manual and talk about it, some of the troubling aspects. If it's one thing to be talking about foreign, but they're talking about civilian detainees and things of that sort. Then you get down to this note, which is really troubling. Note, recent discussions by the executive branch have adjusted the typology in JP 363. What is JP 363? We're going to be starting the discussion today, or the podcast today, talking about human population control movement. I've been watching Wikipedia. I like Wikipedia. You get a lot of good information. You also can get some bum information. It changes because it's a system where anybody can edit it. It's interesting. It would be interesting to know who's editing what, when, and how, and why, and who they are. Used to be human population control movement, and you'll see here it says redirected from population control movement. They don't have that as a main category anymore. They talk about it in Wikipedia, and they've also changed. Somebody has changed the different methods. The human population control, historically, going back to the 60s, was a movement. It still is a movement. It seems like they've dropped the name off because when I see movement, I automatically, because the majority of the time it's related to world communism. And I think they want to distance themselves, whoever it is, from communism and the human population control movement. In the 60s, it was a big thing. And this is where, if you look through the methods, you'll see birth control and conception, abstinence, infant mortality, abortion. They have said in the past medical abortion. Now it's just abortion. So there's a difference there. There's a difference between medical abortion and abortion, the timing and things in relationship to that. They also have infanticide. They've added on status of women, whatever that means. I don't know why that is even included in there. That seems to be something else, or it should be a subcategory of one of these others. They have war. Yes, war is a population control device. Immigration, that's the outward bound of some people. Then we get to immigration reduction. Used to be it was just immigration. Now they've come in with reduction. Why is that? And who did that? Immigration. Right away, a thought of mine comes now to the present action that's being taken in the Congress of the United States. They don't seem to get anything done, but immigration is a form of human population control. Also, if you move those words around, at the same time you're doing human population control, you're also controlling the human population of a particular country or region of the world. And the different methods are used in the controlling area of the human population, and we're talking here the human population control. Now we have immigration, and that's where we have people coming in to a particular country from other country or other areas. They come in the United States, cross the borders, from all around the world. We do not have any secure borders. We've had problems in the past, in the entire history of our country, and that's why it's in the Constitution of the United States. It's the responsibility of Congress of the United States And that right alongside of national security and secure borders. It all goes together. Then we also have sterilization, and that's used in a lot of places in the world, over in Africa. And they use that as a form of slavery and things of that sort. Then they have euthanasia. Euthanasia has been added, and what was taken out was genocide, which is interesting. They brought in euthanasia. Euthanasia, maybe some of you remember Dr. Death, Dr. Kevorkian over in Michigan. Now, euthanasia is what's known as mercy killing, is a common term that's used for that. There's also assisted suicide. Dr. Kevorkian went to jail he was a doctor, for assisting people who wanted to end their life, and it was called assisted suicide. That's euthanasia. But now they use the big word euthanasia. Now, with Obamacare, if you have death penalty and you have some elderly people and we withdraw medical services to them because they're too old, too fragile, or maybe cost too much money and it would add to the national debt or cost of medical care, and if the government's running it, well, we just let them die. That's euthanasia. Now, as I say, I've been keeping an eye on this Wikipedia because I know things change on Wikipedia. Anybody can come in and change it. They don't have genocide. Now, you have abortion or medical abortion. And if it's one woman making a choice, that's abortion. She's aborting that child. My argument would be if you have a systematic, like we have in the United States and most of the Western countries, Western culture, they have this abortion. It's systematic. That 55 million since 1973, since the case of Roe vs. Wade, we've had that. That's genocide. That isn't one woman deciding to abort, or several women individually deciding to abort. No, that's an entire system. And the impact on that is overwhelming. The negative results of that are overwhelming. And I may do a podcast just on that. How many of those people would be in the workforce, working, paying into Social Security, paying taxes? They're gone. They're gone forever. And they were gone before they were legally born, but after they were conceived. The religious connotations there. But I consider that genocide. That is population control. And it also is controlling the population too. It's the other side of the coin. JP 3-63 is Joint Publication 363, Detainee Operations. This is from the military. This is from the Joint Chiefs of Staff, as high as you can get in the military. And that's what's troubling about this. This is military operations. And if it's strictly overseas, it may be in foreign, it may be one area. If we're dealing with terrorists and national security, that may be another area. But what if we're talking about civilian detainees? And they talk about civilian detainees in here. Also, this publication, by the way, it's directly from the Department of Defense, DOD. So anyone can go in here, and it's no whistleblower here. It's an official publication. 81 pages. I've been reading some of it. And I got to the part where civilian detainees. And then you got parts about psych ops. Psych ops on civilian detainees? I hope they're not talking about within the United States. You hear these things with the U.S. Cyber Command, that's a military command, with NSA. Now we're talking about here with detainees. Are we all talking about the United States and internally and domestic? That would make the Joint Chiefs of Staff domestic enemies of the Constitution, wouldn't it? Because they'd be violating their oath. What I have up now, this is a screen capture from that clip talking about human population control. You notice up at the top, and I think I said it in the clip, the population control movement. You see that up there underneath human population control from Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. And then we redirected from that because that doesn't exist anymore. The population control movement is a movement that started way back when. Really heavy duty, like 65, you know, when all this civil rights stuff and blah, 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 and we're calling people blacks and gay and all these chaoses, you know, the struggles and all this garbage that the communists put out. They also had that too, the abortion and what have you. We're going to talk about abortion. That whole period of time there, in from the 50s into the 60s, and they got heavy-duty concentration of communism here in the United States. And they eliminate, you know, they abolish religion, and that's why I talk about American communist theocracy, because now communism is a religion. They replaced Jesus Christ. You hadn't noticed that, right? Well, they've done that. That's what they act that way, and they'll continue to go further. They've evangelical service personnel, military service personnel, have been persecuted here the last few years, very heavy duty. Well, this is the one. That's the intro on that. And in the next, I want to show you. This is the methods that was back there in July of 2013. Here they are. They're listed. Contraceptives, abstinence, infant mortality, abortion, and as I said in the clip, even before they changed stuff before that, it was medical abortion. Now it's just abortion. Because you can do abortion several other ways. I guess it doesn't have to be medical abortion. You know, they have infanticide. That's killing children, you know. Status of women. Status of women. I didn't realize what that was. I got deep into the Communist Manifesto, and I found out what that is. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that, how they've changed stuff. War. Showed you pictures of war. Killing the people. That's population control, and that's how you control the population, too. Come on in. What do you think that population control was on 9/11? That was population control. They got rid of 3,000 Americans, or 3,000 human beings, Homo sapiens. They got rid of them that day. They got rid of the Twin Towers. That's population control. Intimidation. It's all about that, isn't it? You knock them buildings down, kill people, you're intimidating people. That's how the communists operate. War. Immigration. That's E with the E. There's immigration, which is inbound, and there's immigration, which is outbound. And that's, you know, by the way, communism also. All this stuff right here is communism, by the way. And I'll relate it to the Communist Manifesto. Sterilization, euthanasia. And in the clip, if you heard it, used to be genocide was there. That's what I first noticed, and that's why I've been watching this. Wikipedia. Wikipedia has a lot of good stuff. Okay? I went in as I did, and I'm going to show you the next slide. Let me go right to the next slide. This is what I did yesterday. I made a screen capture from Wikipedia, and they got methods. Look at that notice they have on here. I'm going to read that. This is very interesting, because I went in and looked at Wikipedia, see who's on their board of directors, and who their CEO is, and didn't find out too much. Usually I like to do it. I haven't gone back because I like to find out who's donating, who and where and how, because you can follow the money. That's what you always got to do, is follow the money, don't you? But in that box there, methods, this section does not cite any references or sources. Please help improve this section by adding citations to reliable sources. Unsourced material may be challenged and removed. Notice when this was put on here. The change came in 2013. Says so right there. That notice was put down on there 2013. Wikipedia, people add on some stuff there. You know, there's, and I'm not going to get the quotation right, but I'm going to try. In Federalist 51, James Madison says, if men were angels, no government would be necessary. And that's, I may not have it exact, but that's the meaning behind what's written there in 51. Well, the same with a free encyclopedia where you people are coming in. And when I was checking yesterday, they had somewhere on their site, you know, the rules and stuff like that. Beware, there could be vandalism. Where I come from, that's called hacking. When you go in with a computer program and change things, you come in and look what they've done. Oh, they got the contraception, abstinence. Then they have infant mortality. Do they have it on another one? They have abortion, not medical abortion. Yes, they do. But they removed infanticide. They have sterilization in a different place. And they have legislation. Human population control. Legislation. Did you believe that? What does that mean? Now, I'm talking about internment camps and resettlement camps. That's legislation, isn't it? They took our tax money and they came up with that program that's disappeared. By the way, anybody wants, I was talking about that before, that, you know, the book, that field manual isn't there anymore. I wonder, I might do that when I go to a membership page. I think I may give that as a bonus out. Because I copied that. I've got copies of that. That's an old book that no longer exists. Wow, man. Wow, I'm going to give that out to people. They should read that, and it's very interesting. Because I think that's program still there and under a different name. But legislation, population control, absolutely. Absolutely. What do you think Hitler was doing? They had a government there, and they had legislation. The Nazi Party, political party supremacy, just like we do here. We have political party supremacy. If you think there's any difference between those two parties that we have, you want to buy some property that's underwater, I'll sell you some. They're the same. They're two wings of the same party, the Democratic Party. They've converted the Republic to a pure democracy. There's no representative government. They represent the parties. They don't represent, none of them represent me. I think I said this in my last episode. I have Congressman Bobby Rush. You think Congressman Bobby Rush represents me? You think Senator Dick Durbin represents me? And has since about 1997, when he got the first time elected, I think, as senator. Before that, he was a congressman. He wasn't mine. But don't make any, I was going to say fortunately, but don't make any difference. Because they don't represent the people. They represent their parties and those party interests and special interests. And they adhere to the Communist Manifesto. It's all treasonable acts. Back to this thing. Family planning. Now, they didn't have family planning there. Family planning. Look at that. There's no family. And euthanasia's gone. Yeah, euthanasia's gone. Genocide's gone. War is gone. And look at that. Role model of small family as the norm. That's what they got over in communist China, isn't it? Isn't that what they have in communist China? Sure they do. Now, if you go back here, you see that next paragraph down there. You see that next paragraph? there's one paragraph in July of 2013, one paragraph, and it's roughly, whatever they're saying. But the next paragraph's the one I want you to look at. You wondering where same-sex marriage is and homosexually gay? They don't have the word gay, by the way, in that paragraph. Let's look at that paragraph. Look at it. Let's read it. Let's read it together. Population control may also be a byproduct of biological mechanisms that affect reproductive success and fertility. Furthermore, homosexuality could be considered a form of population control, as research suggests that homosexual men on average have 80% fewer, if any, children than heterosexual counterparts. It must be a joke. The trouble is, it's not a joke, because I'm going to relate this to the Communist Manifesto here in a second. Considering that men can reproduce more frequently than females, the potential loss of reproductive success in men would be significant. You see, population control, they want to control the population, same-sex marriage, homosexuality, gay, however you want to put it. You know, and then again, I think the source originally who changed this is from Europe, because they still use homosexuality over there, and they don't, I believe, use gay as much. And that's primarily an American communist thing. Now, one second here, and I got to get my book out and find out specifically in these different areas, and I will be talking about relating it to the Communist Manifesto. Now, why would you want to control the population or have a human population control or control the population? Now, you can move these words around, they mean roughly the same thing. Why? What's the goal? Well, abortion, we know we've lost 55 million human beings. The potential for them and the negative impacts on that are overwhelming. They are overwhelming. That's lost tax dollars, that's lost opportunity, that's lost human beings in the free enterprise system and in the American political system, our assets. Under a communist system, human beings are a liability. You want to reduce the number of human beings so you can spread out the benefits to a lower number of people who will vote for you, and all the good people that, the bourgeois, whatever is bourgeois there, they're taking everything from it to give it to spread it around, and you don't want to have too many people overall. That's the general idea. Specifically, though, on how you do it there, and they've got this stuff, legislation, what do you think? By the way, let me go back, because let me see here. The immigration was there before. All this thing with immigration, they don't have it on here. They had it on the previous one, by the way, prior to that, and that's why I know this was gone too. Immigration is population control. The outbound and the inbound, okay? By the way, the outbound in Communist Manifesto, if I can find that, they talk about that. They want, and that's page 49, I believe. By the way, they want to get rid of one of the aims of communism is to get rid of all private property. And then it's owned by the community or the state and the federal state, not the local states. Really, the local states were really 50 republics. What will the course of this revolution be? And that's on page 49, and they talk about inherent rights and things of that sort, and education of the children from the time they leave the mother, the time they go into school. Oh, and they have these immigrants, which is not immigration, but immigrants outbound. They have those on page 49, the confiscation of the possession of all immigrants and rebels against the majority of the people. So you're opposed to it, they just pull everything away from you. You have nothing. And while they're at it, they're liable to be putting you in internment camps and resettlement camps because you're going to resist, aren't you? Sure you are. Now, immigration, that's a population control thing too. And they took that away earlier. Now they have, they got immigration reduction. Before it was just immigration. Now the immigration reduction is population control. Well, they took that out completely because they want immigration coming in. Because, as I said on page 25, they eliminate countries. So that's why we have those people, those kiddies coming in from, it's the future labor force for the communists. They want them coming in from Central America. And why are they leaving down there anyway? Because they have all this corruption down in these countries. They have corruption down in Mexico, all the drug cartels and everything. You'd want to leave there too. You'd want to leave there too. And this is the reason they want to come in here. And if they only realize that they're coming in, they're going to be enslaved here too. Sure they are. Now I'm going to talk about the family here. Let me go to the present one for now. Family planning, okay? And you got this status of women. And I was trying to figure out this whole time, and it was in the previous one also. It was not in the one that I originally had, which I never made a copy of, prior to 2013, whenever they changed that one prior to that, because it's been changed several times. And it's been manipulated. This is manipulation of data. It is psychological warfare. What you're seeing here, what I'm showing you, is psychological warfare being utilized against the citizens of the United States in violation of basic human rights here in America. Page 52, their question 21, what will be the influence of the communist society on the family? You want to know where same-sex marriage and gays and homosexuality and the promotion of homosexuality, which I already read in that one paragraph. But that's also on page 52 of the Communist Manifesto. And it says, I'm going to read this two paragraphs. It will transform the relations between the sexes into a purely private matter which concerns only the persons involved and into which society has no on occasion to intervene. It can do this since it does away with private property and educates children on the communal basis, and this way removes the two bases of traditional marriage, the dependence rooted in private property of the woman on the man, and of the children on the parents. Yank them kiddies away from the parents, put them in the Common Core at school. Oh yeah, man. Then there's the next paragraph, and here's the answer to the outcry. The highly moral Philistines against, quote, the community of women, unquote. Community of women is a condition which belongs entirely to the bourgeoisie society, in which today finds its complete expression in prostitution, but prostitution is based on the private property and falls with it. Thus, communist society, instead of introducing community of women, it in fact abolishes it. War on women, where do you think it comes from? They use that and they say that to their enemies, that they're going to war with. No, they really are the one war on women, war on everybody, because they're enslaving everybody and they're taking their property. They're controlling it all. When you control the population, the human population control, all of that, however you want to word it, you're controlling all the property too. And who has the control of it? Not the proletariat, but the leadership. The party leadership and their buds. By the way, number 22, what will be the attitude of communism to exist in nationalities? Here's your immigration. The nationalities of the people associating themselves in accordance with the principle of community will be compelled to mingle with each other as a result of this association and thereby to dissolve themselves, just as the various estate and class distinctions must disappear for the abolishment of their basis, private property. Now, It's all connected. It's all connected. The immigration, page 25, I told you the abolishment of countries and nationality. And there they go. They're talking about it. We don't need to protect the border. There is no more America. There's communist theocracy. That's what we have. It's going to get worse. It is going to get worse. Now, that JP3-63 is still in effect. In fact, I made a copy of it today. Again, I'm going to compare it to my old one and see if there's what effect there has been with it. And at JP363, if it's strictly utilized, and what it is now, they even have some reports in there concerning Afghanistan bases and detention centers in there and what have you. So if it's done strictly overseas, I don't have a problem. What concerns me is all it would take would be one executive order, and we know that dude in the White House, he likes them executive orders because he likes being a dictator, a communist dictator to boot. And so what you have, if you have that one executive order, let's say for martial law or some other thing, these people at the Joint Chiefs, I guess they're willing to violate their oath and violate the laws concerning posse comitatus. Because we're going there. That's what we got. We got some flunkies there in the military, the high brass, the flag officers. They've been purging out the ones who's liable to stand up to this dude, and to the party, by the way, because he's just one man. That's the party doing all this stuff. That's the part. The Republicans, they ain't doing nothing. They're all in it together. They're all in it together. All treasonable acts. Now I'm going to go a little bit further back. This is a tweet that I had. I got 300 some tweets, not a lot, but I got 300 some. This is from December 20th, 2013. We're not only talking Wikipedia, we're talking YouTube and Google, and that's why I protected my and have safely stored all my videos, my original videos, in case I get attacked. Because what I'm going to say is they might not like YouTube. They didn't like what I did here because they changed what I complained about and what I tweeted about. Pope Man of the Year, but no category for religion. Is YouTube, Google, any religion bigoted? A public corporation? Question mark. And I did a screen capture, and there's no religion. When I started posting all these videos that I've done, way back when, early 2013 when I started vlogging instead of blogging and podcasting. Because I like the videos, especially slide videos. And I went, and there you go. Well, let's see, what am I going to put it under? Nonprofit, activism, news and politics. I was putting a lot of them. And mine, and you ever saw earlier, my observational chart that I have, observational graphic, heavy duty religion. Our system's based, our legal system based upon the Ten Commandments. I don't care what the Supreme Court says. It's wrong most of the times here lately because they're a product of the two-party system. Okay? That's why they do what they do. They've lost their principles, if they ever had them. Now, that was one. And let me go one more. That same day, YouTube, why no category for religion? Do they censor press and media for the political party supremacy? No, they don't suppress on the other side. But they suppress if you want to do about religion as a category. By the way, this is done by other areas too. Now, I don't know about Google. You cannot find out what's known as the search engine optimization, what you're trying to optimize. You don't know how they do what they do. There's people who have guessed it and try and do it so you can optimize it by having the right keywords. But you know, right keywords, that's what happened with the IRS, isn't it? The right words, and boy, they wouldn't give you any status on, you know, 503 or whatever, and all them other numbers and what have you. But if you were with the boys, you got it right away. But if you were conservative or religious or evangelical, or you go on down the line, they had keywords too, didn't they? Well, does Google, they do it too? They do not have a copyright or a patent that I know of on their programs or their computer programs. And there's a reason for that. You wouldn't want to do it. That isn't my complaint about them not having one, because if you put that out to the public, and you would be if you put a patent out on it or a copyright out on it, you have to say what it is. And if somebody else saw it, then they take that and just alter it somewhat enough to get by and do their own. But we don't know how Google searches stuff out. You go into Google, and I believe it's being doctored. I don't know how much, how, where, or whatever. It's just a gut feeling of mine from experience. I don't get a lot of plays or views on certain things. It's out there. Some of it has to do with the not good enough marketing on my part, so I'm somewhat responsible. The other thing is, I can tell you right now, I go on my keywords that I have, and 99, I tell you what, I go sometimes, I just put some words in there, I can't find my videos. Okay, I don't know how they have it set up, and it's not equitable, I can tell you that. Back to my observational chart that I've done. I've had that, I guess, a year and a half or so. Sat down one day and was thinking about all this stuff. Like I said, I've been anti-communist for 55 years. Involved in this stuff, doing research. This is my observation. You notice down at the bottom there is a line, what I call my line in the sand. To the left of that, the federal system of America, that's being enlightened, that's being on the light side. And over to the right there, communism. That's the dark side, darkness, evil, wickedness, violence, combat, illegality. So these resettlement camps, internments, that's where you get all this stuff. That's the finality of it all in most societies. Bounces back and forth and people resist like they did in the Soviet Union. But you notice Putin there, he killed in the last few days. He says he's not responsible for it. You have the opposition of Putin disappeared, was assassinated, terminated. That's right out of The Prince from Machiavelli. That's what they do. You have competition, opposition, you get rid of it. You have a monopoly. Communism, they love monopolies too. Political party supremacy. It's on page 25 of the Communist Manifesto. So what you have, you get rid of them. He said he didn't get rid of them. Doesn't know anything about it. Somebody does, because somebody assassinated this guy. #1 competitor to Mr. Putin. You see, the Soviet Union busted up. That doesn't mean the communists disappeared. He's coming back now, isn't he? Crimea. Well, here in the last week, you know, I've done all this, talked about all these videos I've done, what have you. In life, you go along, you do some things, and you wonder whether it's worthwhile or not. There's that moment. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, I had with my websites, my aha moment in the last week. There's so much documentation from the founders of American Revolutionary War. You can't read or know it all. And you go back and look into this stuff and happen to see stuff, ask a question to yourself. and I asked myself a question. And it led to my aha moment. I realize, I know, I've had some schooling and what have you. You had the American Revolution, and then you had the Articles of Confederation, and then you had the Constitution, and then you had the Bill of Rights. And during this whole period of time, there's documentation going. And I started going back doing some research, and I knew that there were constitutions made by the states. And I had been told in school by a very good professor that they had bills of rights. And I had gone through some of them in the first constitutions, the first 13 states. And there was even some that I'm talking about in the past, and I went back and I looked. And there's either in a couple of states, I think New Hampshire was one of them, and then there was another one that had, may have been North Carolina, I don't know, there was two of them that I noticed. They had constitutions from prior to the Declaration of Independence. No, obviously, this is all before the war is over with. We're not even sure we're going to win. We ultimately end up winning. A struggle. And I looked and I said, well, after the Declaration of Independence, what kind of constitutions are? And I think I've mentioned this in the past. I went to Avalon Project at Yale Law School. They've got their library there. Wonderful resource for documentation, ancient and all the way up to the present. Documentation. And they got copies of constitutions. So I had, while I was in there too, I looked at the Emancipation Proclamation. I'll talk about that in a second. But I got my aha moment. There was one constitution written, and I'm going to get them confused. It was either Delaware or South Carolina. One was in August, and the other one was in September 21st of 1776. Just a couple of months after the Declaration of Independence. And I looked at them, and they did not have delineated Bill of Rights. They had rights in there, but it was within the body of their Constitution, and they in effect said, yeah, we all got natural rights, inherent rights, and inalienable rights, and left it at that, which is fine. Except you start arguing then, if you've got an enemy of the Constitution, he comes along and he says, well, there are no such thing as inalienable rights, and I don't see any. You're not showing me any. Well, lo and behold, I go to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania's first Constitution, September 28, 1776. And of course, they're doing it in the same building, because what happened? Declaration of Independence, that's Liberty Hall there in Philadelphia. Well, them dudes in Pennsylvania stuck around in Philadelphia and had their state constitutional convention. Took them a little bit, 2 months. September 28, 1776, and they got the whereas, all government, blah, 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 the big old first, how they used to do it back in those days, big old paragraph. And I'm not going to read that, because as far as I can tell, this is the first state constitution where they delineated, and in this case, 16 sections, line items, Bill of Rights. one, it starts out that all men are born equally free and independent and have certain natural and inherent and inalienable rights amongst them, which are the enjoying and defending the life and liberty, acquiring and possessing and protecting property, and pursuing and obtaining happiness. Protecting property. Yeah. There's your castle doctrine. Then there's number 3, and this was my aha moment. If you understand our American political system, the Constitution, and inherent rights, this one will knock your socks off. It sure did for me. And it gave me validation for everything I've been doing. And it gave me validation for all these 90 plus videos and what I'm doing in my websites. It gave me validation. Because I'm going to read this. And if you understand it, and I hope I can explain it, everything that these two political parties have done, the fact that they exist, proves them wrong. Proves them to be the evilness that they are. Section 3. This is 23 words. Beautiful 23 words, mind you. That the people of this state have the sole and exclusive and inherent right of governing and regulating the eternal police of the same. You understand that? I'm going to read it again. Listen very closely. 23 words. Let me read it. That the people of this state have the sole and exclusive and inherent right of governing and regulating the internal police of the same. They say, well, that's just talking about police. They're talking about law enforcement. That means the IRS, all these EPA, all these regulations that we have, the Department of Education, you see, everything is tied to law enforcement. When you police, you're finding people, you're taxing people. Everything you're doing. That's why we're not supposed to have direct taxes in the federal government. Income tax. That's where that principle comes from. Because if you have a direct tax, that means you have to regulate that tax, and you have to police that tax. And that's what the IRS is. They're a police force. And now, and Obama knows that too, and Democrats know that, and Republicans too. They're liars too. Yeah. Who's policing communist care? Or some people call it Obamacare. I call it communist care because that's what it is. And it's not states' rights. You hear these people, and especially the civil rights communist people, talking about states' rights, blah, blah, blah. There is no state. No, there is no states' rights. That may be one true thing they say. Because the states are republics, and the people are the state. They're the ones with the rights. The state itself is nothing. It's just land. It's an inanimate object sitting there. The state is. It's people. It's individual people. They're the ones with the rights. And that says so right here. That the people of this state. That's right. And that's every state too, because it's a sole and exclusive inherent right of governing. The people have the right to govern. We, the people, have the right to govern and regulate the internal police. That means the enforcement of all your laws. What good is the laws if you're not going to enforce it? And all the policing of those laws and regulations, all of them. So all this federal government stuff, this is pre-10th Amendment. That's where the 10th Amendment comes from. Because the Constitution, U.S. Constitution, come along, and there was consent given for certain activities. And if it isn't in there, the states retain that right, and it's right here. That's what they're retaining. They would give up just a little bit later on in the Constitution for efficiency. But all this other stuff since then, come on. I've been through this already about the 16th Amendment. That's a treasonable act. Federal Reserve, treasonable act. All your privacy gone, all your policing gone through the loss of privacy. That's what this is. Oh, I saw this. I was never so happy in all my life because you can now act off of that. With that, you know, I got that, made me so happy. And that's one of the reasons I'm going to push out this Operation Official Misconduct. Because the laws are on the side of the free citizens class. Just what I read gives you a basis for legal action. What they have done is criminal. So not only civil suits, you can file criminal suits against these people. And I'm going to show you how to do that too. I'm going to tell you how to do that. I'm not a lawyer, but I know how to read. And with that, I'll be ending this. And if you would be so kind and you're not at my site, you would go to my site and subscribe, I would appreciate it. If you don't want to subscribe, that's fine too. A lot of free stuff there. You can listen to this stuff. At least it is free now. May have some stuff that may be restricted later on. But I'll always have some free stuff because it's important. Good day.